We are starting a new series next week. Today is not really the start of it because it's Thanksgiving weekend and it's a rainy weekend. But what do you do on the Sunday after Thanksgiving when Advent starts the next week? Well, if you're a preacher, you give a prelude to the new series you're going to do. And the series we're doing is called Joy to the World, and probably the most famous, well-known song on the planet. Everybody recognizes it, no matter what culture you're from, no matter what your religious beliefs are. The tune is recognizable to everyone. And as we talk about the true meaning of joy to the world, we want to look week by week at some of the things that this famous Christmas carol says, but more importantly, where that comes to us through the scripture and how, in fact, Jesus does offer joy to the world. All the world, everyone. No matter where you've been, no matter what you've done, no matter your background, Jesus really is joy to the world. So we're going to end our year. This whole year we had a theme called Aspire for Joy. We're going to end our year with this series called Joy to the World. Now, this song, Joy to the World, was actually written, the lyrics were written in 1719 by Sir Isaac Watts. And so it's a very old text, and he based this carol on Psalm 98. So if you have a Bible, I'm going to invite you to go ahead and open to Psalm 98 because we are going to look at the psalm that inspired the carol. But I want us today to look a little deeper behind this psalm because this psalm really is amazing because it is pointing us to something beyond itself. It is pointing us to something that the writer of the psalm couldn't have understood or known, and that in fact wouldn't have been revealed for hundreds of years after this, and that is the very birth of Jesus himself. So as we look at Psalm 98, I want to encourage you as I read it to you. It's just 9 verses. It's pretty short. I want you to listen for all the things in the psalm that inspired Sir Isaac Watts to write the famous Christmas carol, Joy to the World. So here it is, Psalm 98. Sing to the Lord a new song, for he has done marvelous things. His right hand and his holy arm have worked salvation for him. The Lord has made his salvation known and revealed his righteousness to the nations. He has remembered his love and his faithfulness to Israel. All the ends of the earth have seen the salvation of our God. Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Burst into jubilant song with music. Make music to the Lord with the harp and with the sound of strings, with trumpets and with blasts of ram's horn. Shout for joy before the Lord the King. Let the sea resound and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. Let the rivers clap their hands. Let the mountains sing together for joy. Let them sing before the Lord, for he comes to judge the earth. He will judge the world in righteousness and the people with equity. So this amazing psalm is the inspiration for the carol that we sing every year, Joy to the World. And I want to look at it because I want to look at what was the inspiration for this psalm, who is singing this song, and then I want to talk about the song itself. Okay, so let's start by looking at the inspiration for this song. The inspiration for this song is the very source of joy itself. Look what it says at the very end, verse 9. You have to go all the way to the end to figure out what was the inspiration for this exuberant outburst of joy that all the earth is engaged in. Look at verse 9. Let us sing before the Lord, for he comes to judge the earth. He will judge the world in righteousness and the world with equity. Now, this is kind of a strange thing if you think about it. Why would God coming to judge the earth be a joyful thing? Because I don't know about you, so sometimes when I hear people talk about judging the earth, it sounds fearful, like it's just a fearful thing, like God's coming to judge the earth, we should all be terrified. That's not what this psalm says. This psalm says, in fact, because God is coming to judge the earth in righteousness, the whole world should rejoice. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in a courthouse or been in the downtown. It's not a happy place. I mean, if you ever see judges or people being called to jury duty or lawyers, they're very rarely smiling when you go down there. There are some happy things that happen there, but for the most part, when you're involved in the legal justice system, it is not a happy occasion. So what is it about this that is causing everybody to rejoice? Why would the world rejoice over God coming to judge the earth? Because you and I both know instinctively that there is a longing inside of every human heart for justice. There is a longing inside of us for something to be made right. Now, we may not all agree on what that is. We may not all agree on what right looks like. But somewhere inside of us, we know, no matter what you believe politically, no matter what country you're from, no matter if you're religious or not religious at all, no matter what, we all believe that there is this idea of justice, that there is this idea of rightness. And we couple that with the idea that there is a judge or a king. Somewhere out there, somebody can come and make it all right. And this psalm rejoices because the king is coming. Look what it says in verse 1 and 3. Sing to the Lord a new song. His right hand and his holy arm have worked salvation. The Lord has made his salvation known. He has remembered his love and his faithfulness. Shout, verse 6, shout for joy before the Lord, the King. Now, if justice seems like a strange thing to rejoice over, this idea of a king is also a little strange because if you look through world history, kings don't have a great track record. They don't have a very good track record. There are lots of evil kings you can think of, and even the good kings that may come to your mind in history are all flawed kings. And so why would we rejoice over a king who brings justice? Again, this goes back to something deeply instilled inside of the human heart, and that is a longing for this ruler, a king who comes, who brings with him rightness and justice. Even democracy lovers really want a king. Now, I know over 200 years ago, we fought a revolution to get rid of kings. But look what happens every 4 years in America. What divides us? We all are looking for some leader who can step in and fix everything that's wrong. And when they don't fix what's wrong, we get mad at them. Or if they don't fix it the way we want them to fix it, we get mad at them. Even people who say they love democracy still have inside of them this longing for this perfect king who will come and somehow bring justice and righteousness and make it all right. Winston Churchill famously said that democracy is the worst form of government except for all the rest. Tim Keller said that democracy is more like medicine than like food. We know in America we love our democracy, we love our freedom, but it is more like medicine in that it may cure some ailments, but it doesn't satisfy the longing in our soul, because even people who love democracy still have this idea that there is a king, there is a ruler, there is someone who can come and fix all this. Why is that so? Because there's a memory trace in humanity. There's a memory trace inside of every culture, inside of every people throughout history. There is a memory trace inside of humans that there is such a perfect king who will come. Think about all the great legends and all the great stories. Think about King Arthur, the once and future king. Think about the Chronicles of Narnia or the Lord of the Rings. The idea that there is a king who is missing, and if we can just get the king back to the throne, everything will be right. The kingdom that is in chaos will suddenly be put back in order and everything will be made whole again. There's a memory trace inside of us that knows there is somewhere out there this idea of perfect justice and this idea of a king who can bring about this justice. And so the inspiration for this psalm and for the idea of joy to the world and for the story of Christmas itself is the fact that there is a king who will come and make everything right. Now let's look at the singer of the song. The singer of the song are the recipients of the joy. The singers are the recipients of the joy. Look what it says in verse 4. Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Now that's important, that this is a message for all the earth. It wasn't a message just for one particular people group, one particular nation, one particular language. It was a message that was going to be for all the earth. Look at verse 7 and 8 because it's bigger than just humans. Look what it says in 7 and 8. Let the sea resound and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. Let the rivers clap their hands. Let the mountains sing together for joy. See, this promised king who is to come, this memory trace that we have, isn't just the king of a single nation. It's not just the king of Israel. Because John 3:16 tells us that God so loved the world that he would send his one and only son, that whoever would believe in him would not perish but have eternal life. The message of Christmas, the message of joy, is for the entire world. But notice, it's not just for every person on the earth. It's not just for all living creatures. But it's for all the inanimate objects are also called to rejoice. The rivers and the mountains and the trees are all called to rejoice. All creation rejoices when their Creator comes and liberates the creation. This is why Sir Isaac Watts, one of the verses that we don't often sing of Joy to the World, well, why he wrote these words: while fields and floods, rocks, hills, and plains repeat the sounding joy. How do fields and rocks and hills and plains repeat the sounding joy? And then he goes on to say, nor more let sin or sorrow grow, nor thorns infest the ground. See, what Isaac Watts is talking about is the same thing the writer of Psalm 98 is talking about. We all instinctively know something has gone terribly wrong in creation. The king who should be on the throne has been replaced with idols. The king who should be on the throne has been replaced with the self-determination of the human race itself. And it has corrupted not just my heart, not just one group of people's heart, but it's corrupted all of humanity, and it's corrupted the earth itself. That the very earth groans in longing for its deliverer to come. That the Creator who formed everything, who carved out the mountains and the seas, and who created men and women in His image and set them in the garden and said, have dominion over the earth, that something terribly wrong has happened. And from the fall of mankind, we have known that there is a better way to live. You've experienced this in your own life. You've had those moments where you thought, I can't live like this anymore. I can't do this anymore. Something was wrong. Something was wrong. And here's the thing, you can't know something's wrong unless somewhere inside of you there is the idea of rightness. You have to believe somewhere that there is a way for things to be right in order for you to instinctively know that things are wrong. And now listen, and I don't want to get all churchy on you, because let's just say you're not a Christian, you don't believe what I believe, your morals are different than my morals. Okay, you don't even by your own standards know that things are right in your life. By your own standards, whatever they are, something isn't right. You know this. But you know there is a right. And all creation knows there is a right. And so we have a longing for this king who will come and who will bring with him justice and rightness and peace that the world longs for. You see, just like the world has tried all kinds of things to make things right, we've tried different forms of government, we've tried different forms of economics, we elect different people, we believe different things, we practice different religions. We're constantly searching as a human race for something to be right. And you would think that as with the progress of science and with the progress of time, we would suddenly make things better than, at least better than they were. And in some fields, it's certainly true, things are better than they were. And then you watch the news and you realize everything falls apart overnight. The wars break out and people are dying and babies are killed and all these horrible things that happen, and people hate their neighbors, and there's conflicts that go on for generations and generations and generations. And it doesn't matter how smart we get, it doesn't matter how good we are at governing, things just simply fall apart. And so we know, we long for this king. You know it in your family, you know it in your own life, that something is not right, and we rejoice at the thought that there could be a king who could come, who could set it all right again. And the good news of Psalm 98 and the good news of Christmas is that the king has come. That he has come, and he wasn't just coming for one specific people group who believed one certain thing. He was coming for all the world. The one who created the planet and holds all of the stars in his hands, that person who created it all, knows how to set it right, has come, and he has intersected, he has placed himself into our reality so that we might know him. Which leads us to the third part, the song itself. What is the consequence of this joy? Look at the consequence of the joy. First, there are two characteristics of the song, and we see this in verse 1. First, we know it's a new song. It is a new song. What is it in verse 1? Sing to the Lord a new song. Now, this is very interesting because the book of Psalms itself is a hymn book. It's 150 Psalms. It was the hymn book for ancient Israel. These were the songs that Jesus would have sang with his disciples as they're walking from village to village. They would have been on his lips. In fact, most of them probably had many of the Psalms, if not all of the Psalms, memorized. And so they would have been on their lips. But this psalm, which was ancient even by the time Jesus would have said it, This song says, sing a new song. Now, I don't know about you, but when you think about religion and tradition, I think about old things. I think about things that have been repeated over and over again, right? I mean, we need those things, right? We need those things to teach us. We need those things to remind us, to draw us back to our roots. But this very psalm says, sing a new song. What is the new song? What is the basis of this new song? Something new was going to happen in this very ancient religious tradition of Judaism. Look what the prophet Isaiah said 700 years before Jesus was born. He said this. God speaking through Isaiah said, remember not the former things, nor consider the things of old. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? Now, what's so fascinating to me about this is that if you read the Christmas story, it is a story of everybody missing it. Now, we talk about the shepherds and how the shepherds were out in the fields watching their flocks by night and the angels singing and Mary and Joseph, and there's no room in the inn, and so they stay in the barn. We read those stories, and that to us seems like an old story, right? I mean, it's 2,000 years old. But have you ever thought about how many people in ancient Israel missed that story and why they missed the story? Kings and religious leaders and people who had been studying the scripture for hundreds and thousands of years, they were looking to say, where is this Messiah who will come, this king who will bring justice and righteousness? They were looking for a king, but here's the problem. They were looking for a king to do things the old way. A king who would come and go into Rome and kick out the Roman authorities. A king who would be powerful and wealthy and would display his power and wealth from a throne in Jerusalem, and he would expand the borders of the nation, and he would take back what was rightfully the nation of Israel's. That's what they were looking for. They were looking for something old when God had said to them all along, behold, I am doing something new. Do you not perceive it? And the truth is, most of the people in the Christmas story didn't perceive it, because they weren't looking for what God was doing. So when God showed up, he didn't show up as a mighty warrior who would come in and dominate, who would kick out the Romans and use all the same tactics that all the kings, all the failed kings of the earth had used. Instead, this king would be born as a helpless infant. And there would not even be room in an inn in Bethlehem for this baby. And so the baby would be laid in a feeding trough. And people missed it. Through his humility, Jesus' majesty would shine forth. That his throne was literally a manger. And he would not exchange that manger for a throne in a palace, but he would exchange it for a cross on a hill where we would kill him because he wasn't the kind of king we were looking for. Now, what does this tell us about us? When God says to sing a new song, and we're talking about ancient stories, 2,000 years old, what does that mean for us today? Well, let me just ask you, as you go through the holiday season and you do traditional things and you hear traditional stories, what if God is saying to you this Christmas, behold, I am doing something new in you? I want to do something new in you. What if, just, I know this is crazy, but just stick with me for a second. What if for those of you in the room who think, I don't know where God is, I can't find God, I don't see God, I don't hear God, he doesn't speak. What if the reason you don't see God working around you is because you're looking for him in old patterns when God is doing something new? What if God is inviting you this Christmas, the most traditional time of the year? It's amazing to me. It's amazing. Those of you who attend this service at 11, where we sing contemporary music, you want to sing Christmas carols at Christmas time, right? You want that. Why do we want to go back to those things? There's something familiar about that. But I would say it's not just because of the familiarity. It's because there is hope for something new in this story. That God can do something unexpected and new, not in big ways that everybody sees, but in very humble, simple ways, where you just open your heart to God to do something new this Christmas season. For some of you, you've gone through the Christmas season year after year after year, and you've heard the stories, but you have never, ever yourself invited Jesus to do a new work in your heart and in your life and in your family. Look at what happens at the very end of the story. Revelation 21:5, this is what it says. And behold, he who is seated on the throne said, behold, I am making all things new. See, the reason we sing a new song is because it's the hope that Jesus is going to make us new. He's going to renew and restore everything that is broken, not just in the world and on the planet, which he will do, but he's going to do it in me. He's going to do it in you. He can do it in you. And this isn't something that just happens someday when you die and go to heaven. This is something that God says, I can do this new work in you right here, right now. It's a new song. Maybe you need a new song this Christmas. But there's a second characteristic of this song. It is also a loud song. Now, the earlier crowd, I had to tell them that they had to get ready because they like things a little more quiet. But surely it's a loud song. Look at what it says in Psalm 98, verse 4 through 6. Burst into jubilant song with music. Make music to the Lord with the harp. Now, instead of harp, I want you to replace that with electric guitar. They just didn't have electricity back then. With the harp and with the sound of singing, with trumpets, with the blast of the ram's horn. This was to be a loud and jubilant song that all the earth joined in so that no one could miss it, that everyone would know, that it would be proclaimed to the ends of the earth. Everyone would be invited to join in. We'll look at this passage more next week, but I love the shepherds. In Luke chapter 2, you see the angels appearing to the shepherds, and they appear in this mass chorus, right? This is heavenly chorus, and there are angels singing, glory to God in the highest, peace on earth, and goodwill on whom God's favor rests. And this heavenly chorus is there, and it's just a bunch of shepherds out in the field. Like, you think, well, that's kind of a wasted performance for just a few people, and all heaven bursts into song to these simple shepherds. They didn't appear to the king. They didn't appear to Herod. They didn't appear to the Roman government. Instead, they appeared to these simple shepherds with this loud song. And then what do the shepherds do? Look at this with me. Luke chapter 2, verse 16 through 18. And the shepherds went with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the baby lying in the manger. And when they saw it, they made known the saying that had been told them concerning this child. And all who heard it wondered what the shepherds had told them. This is an amazing story to me because the angels appeared to these shepherds, but it was these simple shepherds who went out and loudly declared to the whole city of Bethlehem and to all the region what had happened. They sang loudly what they had witnessed and heard about. What would it be like this Christmas season if everybody who said they want Jesus to be the center of Christmas, they want Christ to be the center of Christmas, lived that out loud? And I don't mean because we argue in the town square about whether there should be a nativity there or whether you say happy holidays or Merry Christmas. I'm so tired of those arguments. It fascinates me how people who say they want to share joy to the world go out and aggravate so many people by just getting them mad and engaging in debates that ultimately don't matter. What would happen instead if everybody who followed Jesus simply lived out the Jesus way of life, lived it out loud in your words and in your deeds with the hope that you have? That yes, the world is a mess. Yes, there is injustice. Yes, there are all kinds of problems. But we have a hope that goes past this present reality because we know that not only has the King come, but he is returning. He will return. And so we live out loud with the faith and hope that Jesus is the King who sets all things right. That we experience that personally. And that based on our personal experience, we share that hope with any and all who would hear it until all the world is singing the words, joy to the world, the Lord has come. That's the hope of Christmas. So what I want to challenge you to do as we get ready for Advent, next Sunday is the start of Advent. That Advent's 4 Sundays before Christmas. Christmas Eve is on a Sunday, so you've got 4 weeks, all right? But not 4 weeks to get busy shopping and get the food ready and get the house decorated. I know you got to do all those things. You may want to do all those things. But what about this holiday season? What about this Advent? If you took this season to just prepare your heart, to prepare your heart for Jesus to do something new in and through you. I want to challenge you to begin a new Christmas tradition that loudly proclaims joy to the world this Advent season. What does that mean? Well, I don't really know. I think it means something different for each one of you. It means something different for your families. But I want to challenge you to seek after God and say, God, what can you do? What would you have me do this Christmas that loudly proclaims joy to the world throughout the holiday season? We have something that we participate in every year at Aspire. If you've been around Aspire for any length of time, you've heard about the Advent conspiracy. You know, the Advent, the preparing for the coming of Jesus, the preparing for celebrating of Jesus, that first Christmas really was a conspiracy. God had an amazing mission, and it was nothing anybody would expect it as he sent Jesus into the world to reveal his glory to all the world. It was a conspiracy, and we join the conspiracies who participate. Here, 4 ways you can participate. First, worship fully. Worship fully. What do I mean by that? Come to church? Yes, come to church. Yeah, do that. That's easy. But I mean, what if you made worshiping the Savior the most essential part of your Advent every day throughout the Advent season? What if you just took 10 minutes? For those of you who maybe don't do this on a regular basis, what if you just took 10 minutes? And every day for this 10 minutes, you just in your own heart drew close to Christ. Maybe you can use some of the suggested readings on the worship guide, or you can find other resources. Something you might read the Christmas story. You can find it in Matthew chapter 1 and 2, Luke chapter 1 and 2, and maybe every day you just read one of those chapters and repeat it over and over again. But what if in your own heart, in your own family, you just made worship the centerpiece of your Christmas celebration? And then when we all come together, as we celebrate on Sundays, as we get together for Christmas concerts and all the other things that are going on, our worship together was the overflow of the worship that we experienced in our own hearts. The Advent conspiracy begins by worshiping fully. But second, we want to challenge you to spend less. Spend less. Now, why do we say this? Because Christmas has become so focused on consumerism that a lot of times the true message of humility and meekness gets lost in the message. It gets washed away. So what happens if we sort of buck the cultural trend and we say, you know, we're going to spend less. In other words, we're not going to focus our resources on buying bigger, better gifts, but instead we used our resources for things that really matter, which leads us to the third part, which is to give more. Well, how do you spend less and give more? Well, maybe you find ways to celebrate with your family and friends where you spend time together, you do things together, and instead of spending your money on gifts that, quite honestly, nobody's going to remember in 6 weeks or maybe even 6 days, what if you use those resources to support the message of the gospel being shared around the planet? Our Advent conspiracy trees, we've got stories. We've been doing this long enough. We've got a whole bunch of stories from people whose families have used the Advent conspiracy as a way to exchange gifts with each other because they don't need anything. They don't want anything. So what do you do to express love? What if you just supported a missionary somewhere around the world or a ministry that you really care about? Give more intentionally and give relationally to people. And finally, and this is part of our rhythm throughout the year, love everyone always. Radically love everyone the way Jesus has radically loved you. And that's hard. It's really hard. But at Christmas time, maybe more than any other time, there is an openness and there are people seeking. What are they seeking? They're seeking a king who will bring rightness and justice and peace that the world so longs for. And until he comes, he has left us. He's left his followers. He's left you and he's left me to stand as ambassadors in this world, to point to him, to remind the world that even though the world may be in chaos, even though your life may be a wreck, we have hope that there is a king who has come and will come again, and he will bring with him peace on earth and joy to the world.